ini bukan social enterprise ataupun kelas tuition ke apa, bukan nak bagi tahu benda yang sangat ringkas, bagi tahu detail. I think if they really thought that this is something that was serious, they would have gone out of their way to come up with a very clear set of guidelines for schools to abide by. Hi guys, selamat datang kepada podcast Pendidikan. Bersama saya Samuel dan sebelah saya kita ada
I'm Bernard
and I'm Tien.
Okay, saya kata podcast Pendidikan tapi saya tak bagi tahu nama lagi. Nama podcast Pendidikan ni adalah The Lesson Plan. Jadi saya rasa setiap guru pendidik, siapa-siapalah yang pernah masuk sekolah ataupun seorang ahli akademik memang biasa dengan terminologi. So saya nak pose question kepada Tien ataupun Bernard. Why this podcast? Apa yang kita nak cover dalam podcast ni? Siapa? Silakan.
I think we see a lot of podcasts talking about current affairs, different issues, but we don't see anyone that focuses on education setakat ni lah. Yeah, so I think that's one of the mungkin reason utama yang kita start podcast ni kot. Yeah.
I think for me sangat senang saja. Orang yang tahu saya memang tahu saya kuat cakap. And saya pun dah a few years in education, and I think pendidikan ni memang satu benda yang sangat passionate about.
Yeah.
And any time and place I want to talk, I can talk about education, I will.
Nice.
Yeah, so we are just bunch of passionate guys who really want to talk about education. That's fundamentally it. Studio pun tak ada, tempat rakaman pun tak ada. Yang ada pun dah halau. Tapi kita buat dalam kereta. I think apa yang kami akan cuba kupaskan dalam siri podcast lesson plan ni adalah isu-isu, current issues dalam pendidikan. Tapi apa yang kami boleh janjikan adalah we'll try to be neutral. Kita akan pastikan bahawa argument kami ataupun pendapat kami berdasarkan fakta. Dan it's just we will disagree. There will be points yang kita takkan sehaluan. Tapi saya rasa that's all part of a great conversation or discussion. So with that spirit, shall we start with our first episode today?
Yeah. So I think for the first thing we want to discuss about is the biggest event that we have all been a part of. Just recently, hanya minggu lepas sahaja kami semua hadir pada sidang kemuncak dan Majlis Anugerah Malaysia Teacher Prize. And for me, walaupun baru saja seminggu dah berlalu, tapi I think the moments, detik-detik tu masih terpahat dalam memory saya. For context, saya rasa event ni kita ada lebih kurang 700 orang pemegang taruh daripada guru, daripada PPD, JPN, KPM dan juga badan-badan NGO yang telah menyertai event ini. Dan maklumatnya adalah untuk memartabatkan profession keguruan and to celebrate what teachers are doing through panels, workshops and keynotes, etc.
Tapi sebelum tu, Tension, saya rasa kita kena bagi penonton kita tahu apa itu Malaysia Teacher Prize sebenarnya. So Malaysia Teacher Prize merupakan satu inisiatif yang kami mulakan pada tahun lepas sebenarnya. It mirrors lebih kurang sama dengan Global Teacher Prize, but we wanted that experience to be in Malaysia as well. Sewaktu saya menjadi 10 finalis teratas pada tahun 2020, saya melihat bagaimana kuasa ataupun power of bringing people together, of putting teachers in the spotlight, of celebrating teachers sebenarnya memberi impak besar kepada persepsi pendidik di sebuah negara itu. Jadi saya rasa pada ketika itu saya dan juga co-founder dan juga CEO pemimpin, bila kita memikirkan mengenai can we bring this to Malaysia, memang itulah hasrat kami. Kerana yalah, seperti mana kita sedia maklum, dalam bidang pendidikan ni, kalau benda yang buruk cikgu buat, satu dunia akan cakap immediately kan. Kita akan viral dekat social media almost serta-merta. But why is nobody talking about the great things that teachers are doing?
That's true.
Dan kami juga rasa setiap saya, Tien, Bernard, kami memang ada pengalaman sebagai seorang guru, dan kami rasakan bahawa kami perlu melakukan sesuatu untuk meletakkan usaha cikgu-cikgu ni di peringkat tertinggi. Dan selain itu, memberikan mereka peluang untuk menjadi key opinion leader. Saya ulang, untuk memberikan mereka peluang untuk menjadi key opinion leader dalam pendidikan dan menjadi pemegang taruh that drives policy changes. So we start tahun lepas, dan tahun lepas apabila kita mulakan ni memang banyak cabarannya. Dan saya rasa antara cabarannya lah dana ke, skala yang kami nak melakukan Malaysia Teacher Prize ini. Kami cuma mampu. Saya rasa pada satu masa tu kita juga fikirkan bahawa saya nak guna duit sendiri untuk jalankan program ini dan juga beri hadiah. Ya, pada masa tu memang betul-betul passionate nak buat benda ni. Tapi saya rasa kami sangat bersyukur selepas setahun, sokongan yang kami terima sangat luar biasa. Dan apa yang Tien cakapkan merupakan majlis kemuncak yang dihadiri 700 lebih daripada 700 orang pemegang taruh dalam pendidikan yang sama-sama datang dengan satu niat meraihkan guru-guru hebat di Malaysia.
And I think boleh tak saya kongsi sedikit? Since that day Sunday tu hingga sekarang, Facebook tu penuh dengan reflection post cikgu-cikgu, and saya rasa semua orang belum move on lagi sebab dia rasa walaupun saya hanya I'm not on stage or whatever, but I feel celebrated as a cikgu, and I feel so inspired to see the top 10s who are celebrated and all the other teachers who came who really want to do good for the country.
Memang ada cikgu yang cakap ni Oscars for teachers. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of them share with us, and I think that's what stays with me as well, kan.
But I think just to pivot on that a little, like Oscars for teachers, kadang-kadang macam ucapan CEO kita yang mengatakan bahawa cikgu bukan hanya selebriti.
Betul.
Dan ini juga merupakan satu yang kita nak champion. Kita nak mengatakan bahawa guru juga bukan macam seasai lah contohnya seorang finalis kita. He is TikTok famous kan. Dia 1.5 juta followers dan sebagainya. Tetapi that's not all about him.
Yes.
He's an experienced teacher.
Betul.
Mempunyai hampir 25 tahun pengalaman. 25 tahun pengalaman. Dan teknik pengajaran beliau tu sangat-sangat menakjubkan sebenarnya. And we want to show that to teachers that they can show that to the world or to Malaysians in general that these teachers are no more than just popular. They are more than that actually. They are key opinion leaders, and as Cheryl mentioned, they are leaders. They are change makers, and that's what we want to push forward.
And I think on that note, we also need to talk about our winner.
Oh yes.
Cikgu Nazmi.
Yes.
And I think Masa Cikgu Nazmi, actually this is his second year applying. And then I think when we look at Cikgu Nazmi, you see, anda boleh melihat hati yang dicurahkan oleh seorang guru untuk memastikan murid-muridnya, tak kisahlah latar belakang mereka, mendapat pendidikan yang wajar mereka diberikan. The things he does outside of his time in school to make sure that his students get the exposure. So for context, Cikgu Nazmi ni dia ajar dekat sekolah yang kawasan pedalaman, rural Sarawak, and dia banyak menjalankan inovasi like Barbie boxes, filmmaking, in order to allow his students to experience things that we who live in the city get to experience in the daily life. Right? And I think that's one of the hallmarks.
And then I think he said if he cannot bring the beach to the students, he cannot bring the students to the beach. He cannot bring the beach to the students, which is a very great way to think about things. And I think because of that, he has done so many great lessons online, and I've followed him for a few years, which was
I've had the pleasure of knowing Cikgu Nazmi hampir berapa tahun
at least 5 years,
at least 5, 6, 7 years. 5 years. 5 years. I think I started knowing about him in 2018. Met him in person in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Or I met him in 2019. Whatever it is, I think the word that can describe this guy is just full of grit. A lot of grit. Creativity is definitely one of it. Definitely memang dia sangat kreatif. Saya tak boleh bayangkan diri saya buat apa yang dia buat. Tetapi cabaran yang dia terpaksa dilalui daripada pindah sekolah kerana isu dan sebagainya. Sentiasa how much time do you think he needs to put in to create this
so
kind
much.
so much. And to be fair, saya rasa RM50,000 ataupun penghargaan yang kami berikan kepada beliau di Malaysia Teacher Prize is just a fraction of the time, the effort, the energy, the tears, I'm sure, that he has put into giving to his students. And I think I'm fortunate, perhaps we are all fortunate to be able to witness this guy on stage doing what he loves and impacting the lives of so many students. And we get to amplify that. It's a privilege lah untuk kita, untuk diberikan peluang untuk menceritakan kisah Cikgu Nazmi.
Dan saya berharap this is just the beginning, titik permulaan saja for more great things to come. Not just from him, but I think all the top 10 finalists as well. So I think on that note, I think moving on to other topics.
Okay. This is a hard topic or?
I think unfortunately malangnya inilah satu perkara yang memang heavy, tapi saya rasa if we want to talk about education, especially recent news, this is an issue we have to talk about. I think tidak lain daripada isu tentang Minggu Solidariti Palestin.
Sebelum kita masuk saya perasan bateri saya kurang sikit. Boleh tak kita pause sekejap?
Pause
boleh.
sekejap, sila.
Okay.
Okay, selamat kembali kepada podcast Lesson Plan. So I think just now kita semua berkongsi tentang pengalaman kami tentang sidang kemuncak dan Majlis Anugerah Malaysia Teacher Prize. Now on to a slightly more heavier news cycle. So I think kita perlu berbincang tentang satu isu hangat yang sering diperdebatkan di media sosial dan juga di kalangan ramai, iaitu tentang Minggu Solidariti bersama Palestin yang dijalankan di sekolah-sekolah awam di Malaysia. I think just to paint the picture first, pada 26 Oktober, since the Gaza Strip, whatever has happened, the war crimes and so on the 26th of October, KPM telah mengumumkan bahawa minggu ini akan dijalankan sepanjang 5 hari di sekolah. And on the 27th, KPM juga telah mengisyukan satu media kenyataan tentang larangan terhadap unsur-unsur keganasan dan juga unsur-unsur ekstremism semasa melaksanakan minggu ini. And then sehari selepas pelaksanaan tersebut, KPM mengeluarkan garis panduan pula, the 7 do's and the 7 don'ts tentang Minggu Solidariti. But I think kalau kita tengok media sosial sekarang, terutamanya jika ada post-post daripada KPM, a lot of people are still very much interested in this topic and so on. So Sam, apakah pandangan anda terhadap this issue specifically?
Saya rasa seperti mana yang the stand of the Malaysian government is that this is a humanitarian issue, of which I agree with. It's something that needs to be condemned. But I think when it comes to school, bila kita mengatakan mengenai pendidikan, apa yang kami lakukan itu, apa yang dilakukan oleh adult atau orang dewasa, mencerminkan kepribadian kita, dan if you cerminkan that kepribadian terhadap murid-murid, what message are we teaching them? So I think saya betul-betul rasa saya setujulah dengan pendapat individu-individu yang mengatakan bahawa apa yang berlakukan di sekolah berkenaan adalah satu yang perlu kita kritik. Sesuatu yang tidak patut berlaku. Sesuatu yang, sebab bila kita you don't fight fire with fire. We speak about peace, we portray peace. I think there's a lot of things that could have been done by that school. I'm actually quite disappointed with the school leader, with the teachers who just did not see this. Yang memang tak nampak benda ni langsung lah. Tapi it was very obvious it shouldn't be done that way. But when we are looking at it from a policy standpoint, what should have been done by the Ministry of Education, I think even selepas kejadian itu berlaku, bila saya tengok garis panduan tu pun macam one pager yang
sangat
umum, very general. And I know it's there's that sense of urgency kan, mereka nak keluarkan satu garis panduan serta-merta yang mudah dipahami dan sebagainya. Tetapi ini bukan social enterprise ataupun kelas tuition ke apa, bukan nak bagi tahu benda yang sangat ringkas, bagi tahu details. I think if they really thought that this is something that was serious, they would have gone out of their way to come up with a very clear set of guidelines for schools to abide by. It is important. Lagi-lagi dalam sistem kita yang sangat centralized, sangat based on federal, perlu benda-benda ni. Jadi saya harap saya betul-betul berharap lah benda ni tak berulang.
Can you see another point of view? You know, like there's another extreme when KPM come up with statements which are very detailed, and then sometimes teachers, right, they follow to the dot, and then it restricts them a lot in what they can do and what they cannot do. And then in this instance, I feel like, okay, they were general, but it was unfortunate that teachers took it to the extreme way. But previously, when we talk about policy or like instructions, right, they talk about autonomy and they talk about giving it the right direction, but they can let schools decide how they want to do it. So how do we balance?
If you're bringing it there, then it's definitely there's no such thing as autonomy without regulation. That's a
Yeah.
point that we need to look at also. The more autonomy that we give to someone and states, let's say we talk about teacher professional development, right? Kita cakap mengenai pengembangan profesionalism guru, bahawa kita nak bagi guru autonomi untuk membuat keputusan dalam bilik darjah untuk mengajar apa yang mereka rasa itu penting dan sesuai dengan anak murid mereka. It comes at a cost. It definitely comes at a cost. But what we can do is to make sure that that said individual, which is the cikgu, diberikan latihan dan kapasiti dan capability yang bersesuaian untuk mengupayakan pendidik itu melakukan this kind of things. So, before I go on, what do you have to say?
I think context is also very important.
Correct.
When we start to talk
I was
about
about to say that,
empowering, we have to look at the time frame, jangka masa yang diberikan. 26 keluar media kenyataan, next week you kena buat. Tapi you tak bagi garis panduan yang sangat jelas.
Betul.
So you ada 10,500 sekolah di serata Malaysia and you expect 10,000 different ways, I would imagine, to do this Minggu Palestin. And dalam isu yang penuh dengan emosi, penuh dengan that's
correct.
so value based and so on kan. Interpretations will happen and that's why we end up with this kind of problem lah. So I think dalam konteks ini, kalau KPM nak keluarkan direktif yang jangka masa dia sangat pendek, it must come with very specific guidelines to make sure that you address what you want to address, and the whole kumpul dana untuk support people in Palestine, the humanitarian cause, that message is delivered correctly.
But I expect more from the teachers lah, to be honest with you guys. I rasa I really expected more daripada cikgu-cikgu ni. Saya tengok ada pendapat dan komen di media sosial mengatakan bahawa ini upama what's the gathering of people like anime, what you call it? Comic-Con or yang orang bawa pistol
Cosplay.
Come on lah, dia konteks yang lain, bukan konteks yang sama. Aduh, kalau macam tu Hari Merdeka lah. I was like, please lah,
Senjata api.
Janganlah buat benda-benda macam tu. Janganlah buat benda-benda. Saya rasa, I expected more. But what's in the, I think the learning part of it is something that what I appreciate the Ministry of Education doing is that they immediately came out to address this.
Correct.
They didn't shy away. They did not. I mean, you have seen ministers or people in the past saying, that didn't happen.
That wasn't our intention.
That wasn't our intention. Who cares? I mean, like, but it's already there, and we have key opinion leaders coming out saying that this is not right. This is a problem also. I think we should continue with that. Let's just call a spade lah.
So hopefully has helped. It's a good learning, I think, experience-wise, for people to look back. Hopefully, and then we'll see if it does. Hopefully, it doesn't have to occur again. So I think kita boleh beralih kepada topik yang seterusnya, and I think this one, as opposed to satu isu yang hangat, like sudden, I think this is a topic that in education has been long-standing. Issue of bullying, isu bully ini. And I think this is because recently di dalam parlimen, Timbalan Menteri Pendidikan mengatakan bahawa kes bully telah meningkat secara mendadak, terutamanya jika anda bandingkan dengan data yang diperolehi sejak 2021. In 2021, because of the pandemic, I would assume we had 326 cases yang dilaporkan. Tahun lepas 3,800 dan tahun ni sampai ke sehingga bulan 10 kita ada lebih kurang 5,000. So we see a quite an increase in the number of cases. Dan KPM telah cadangkan bahawa jika trend ini berterusan, they will increase the number of guru bimbingan dan counselling untuk mengatasi isu ini. And then I think separately on issue bully, as opposed to the macro data, secara micro kita juga ada nampak di dalam berita juga tentang isu bully yang berlaku di MCKK. Right? So
what's this about also? To be honest, I didn't get that news.
But then would you like to share about the MCKK?
Okay, briefly, from what I read and what I remember. So MCKK is a military college, Bangsa. It's a famous school, and recently there's a bully case. A lot of people bullied one guy, and then this person had to go to the hospital, but nothing happened to the person that did it. Alright, and some say it's because these people are related to elite families lah. But these bullying issues actually have been happening, especially in boarding schools, for a long time. And because students stay together, spend so much time, and sometimes warden can pay attention to them, but not 24/7, not every minute. And sometimes things happen, and people sometimes will call this the culture of the senior, how the senior train the juniors, and it's just a wrong way to put it lah. But these things are very difficult to stop because it is an inherent culture already.
Yeah. So I think budaya bully tu mungkin wujud di dalam kelompok-kelompok macam ni.
Betul.
And then I think as we see the cases rising as well, these are the reported ones kan. Yang belum report kita tak tahu lagi. So I think soalan pertama yang saya ingin tujukan ialah do you think having more counsellors is the right way to address this? And if not, then what?
Right. I can try and take a jab lah. I've talked to, saya pernah bincang dengan student-student berkenaan isu ni kan. Mereka kata sebenarnya kami rasa guru GPK mungkin boleh tolongkan. Tapi sebenarnya GPK sebenarnya adalah kaki gosip dekat sekolah. Mereka dapat cerita, mereka pergi kongsi. Tapi bukan untuk protect the students.
Habislah kita punya fokus.
This is what I heard from students. I'm serious. This is what I heard from students, and when I told them passionately, I think more GPK will help. They disagreed. Then I'm like, hey, serious lah. Then how do we sort of reconcile with that, right? So I feel like, then what I told the students is, I agree that if these cases happen, right, we need to keep the teachers accountable lah. And then there are also other teachers that you can reach out to sort of help you and support you. Find the ones that you rasa safe dan boleh kongsikan dengan mereka. I think that's most important in each school lah.
I think the point that perhaps you are trying to make, and something that I understood from what you say, is that this is similar to the Palestinian issue. If you're talking about that GPK alone, I'm just trying in case people just go out and say, no. I think there's a lack of professionalism. And so, like from the Palestinian solidarity issue, is that the lack of understanding that this is unprofessional, this shouldn't be happening. From the GPK's guru bimbingan dan counselling, GPK's point of view, mungkin dia rasa it is my duty to tell somebody about this story before something. I don't know what's the logic behind why they go and pergi cerita ke orang lain dan sebagainya. Tapi saya rasa kurang professionalism lah. Dan point yang mungkin yang kamu nak katakan, yang saya rasa saya nak highlight daripada apa yang Bernard katakan tadi adalah bahawa kalau kita increase the number of GPKs, we must also increase the quality of GPKs. It's not just the number of GPKs in that sense, but what are these GPKs doing? How are they doing? We have to relook their training altogether. Saya mengajar 10 tahun, dia orang 2 tahun mengajar sama, tapi poinnya, saya mungkin korang boleh bersetuju, yang saya lihat lah, guru bimbingan counselling dekat sekolah biasa je, jadi guru yang buat kerja-kerja lain yang cikgu-cikgu lain tak sempat buat. Itu agihan tugas pun mungkin perlu dilihat. Sebab bila saya tengok, yalah, macam jadi MC lah, jadi buat benda tu lah, benda-benda yang kurang buat lah. Sebab there is still an impression, in my opinion, that guru-guru ini tak mengajar. So kerja mereka tu kurang penting in that sense. So baik bagi kerja.
And biasanya mereka handle a lot of programs. One key thing the secondary school punya GPK handle is also the transition to the university. Like career fairs, identifying what they want to do and things like that.
And I think before, I also want to speak on behalf of GPKs, Guru Bimbingan and Counselling, that in general GPKs memang understaffed. I tak pernah tengok satu sekolah yang ada banyak GPK yang sebenarnya boleh menangani isu-isu sosial dan juga tugas mereka dari segi menjalankan program anti dadah ke atau Minggu Kejaya ke dan sebagainya. If we look at the data, I think the latest data that we have is 2019 when the ministry said that kita ada lebih kurang 9,500 GPK di Malaysia ini. Nisbah dia lebih kurang 350 to 1. In sekolah rendah, menengah a bit higher. But for basic mathematics, 9,500 GPKs, we have 10,500 schools.
Tak cukup lah.
Memang tak cukup. So memang sangat susah kalau kita nak pinpoint.
Would you happen to know what is the recommended ratio?
Kalau ikut kenyataan daripada KPM, mereka sasarkan untuk ada nisbah 1 to 250. 1 GPK to 250 students, which is at least half.
Which means we will probably need another 1,000.
No, you have to
plus GPKs.
No, double. Because now it's around 350 or 500. 1 to 350 in
Yeah.
Okay.
primary, I think, and then
Okay.
1 to 500 in secondary schools.
Was there any mention about how this recruitment is going to take place or nothing?
No.
Okay.
Because yang ni was from 2019, and then recently dia orang cakap, kalau nak, we will increase. Itu je. Tak tahu secara kontrak ke, atau nak train guru yang sedia ada untuk masuk kepada aliran ni ke. Because I think the bigger point is also, apakah training dari segi menangani isu-isu sosial yang kita beri kepada guru-guru yang lain,
Betul.
GAD yang biasa.
Sebab saya rasa even if it's 1 to 350, it doesn't make sense, right? Untuk satu orang untuk handle everyone punya issues. Like, this person is already doing so many other things. It doesn't make sense, right? There has to be other
I
solutions.
think we also need to be fair in saying that GPK is not the only intervention that
Correct.
the Ministry of Education has
Yeah.
for untuk menangani masalah disiplin. Saya kadang-kadang, so where do we park this under, right? Is it a discipline problem? Is it a bimbingan problem? I think we really need to look at that. Biasanya sebab kalau ada masalah bully yang berlaku di sekolah, benda kena tumbuk ke, immediately orang yang datang dah cikgu disiplin.
Bukan tubuh orang
Guru
Mungkin lepas ni saya akan kena tumbuk.
Guru bimbingan dan kaunseling biasa melakukan sebelum dan selepas. Tapi saya rasa agenda ataupun culture bullying ni must be seriously eradicated from school. Because if not, no matter what, no matter how many guru bimbingan dan counselling that you have, you're always you're just
never
putting
enough.
up fires. It's not enough. Ada tambah. That definitely has to go on. I think we also need to look at, I don't know, if we're really serious about this, we really look at security measures as well. Because I'm only specifically talking about physical bullying, right?
Correct.
And the extent of that could be death. We have seen this happen before. Security cameras, do we need to put CCTVs? I think we need to be open and start having conversations like this. Because fundamentally, bila saya nak kaitkan perkara ini mengenai confidence rakyat ataupun orang biasa, layman, untuk menghantar anak mereka ke sekolah kebangsaan.
Betul.
Bila saya rasa anak saya tidak selamat, tidak kiralah fizikal ke, mental dan sebagainya, why would I want to send my kid to public school? So I think this it's connected to a lot of other things. And it must be addressed. It must be. We cannot see this happen again. I applaud the Ministry of Education for starting to do like, repair tandas dan sebagainya. Sebab benda-benda ni fundamental. Dan jadikan sekolah itu satu tempat yang selesa dan selamat is fundamental. But they need to ramp it up.
I think on that note, shall we take a short break before we go into our final topic for the day?
Sure. Okay.
Selamat kembali kepada podcast Lesson Plan. Jadi untuk topik yang terakhir, kita akan bincang tentang something that all of us have went through, iaitu UPSR.
Yeah, so
Berapa A?
Saya ambil 7 subjek, 6 A. Iban.
I think 7 or 6A 1B I pun dah lupa dah. Lama sangat dah.
I expected full A's for Tensi, but okay lah.
I'm so sorry for disappointing you.
Justin berapa A?
Justin berapa A, Justin?
6A 1B.
Wah, saya paling pandai dah kereta tadi. Saya 5A bro.
Full A lah.
Tapi saya tak ada 2
Tak ada bahasa Cina lah.
Buat apa saya nak ambil bahasa Cina?
Yeah, so I think isu UPSR ni sejak we started this in 1988 and then in 2021 kita dah dimansuhkan, and then sekarang ada debat untuk bring it back daripada grup-grup tertentu seperti parents dan sebagainya, dan tambahan pula Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri Sarawak atau Sarawak itself nak go towards recreating their own brand of UPSR untuk murid-murid di Sarawak. So I think this is something that we definitely want to talk about. Adakah UPSR wajar dikembalikan atau tidak? Sam, you taught SK students. I think you are in the best position to discuss this first.
Saya dah pernah berdebat perkara ni dengan ramai bertahun-tahun sebelum UPSR dimansuhkan dan sebagainya. Dan saya rasa ada pros and cons pada hari ini. Transisi kepada pembubaran ataupun pemansuhan UPSR there was a 10-year transition for that. Kalau tak silap saya, apabila Pelan Pembangunan Pendidikan PIPP dilancarkan pada ketika itu, dan sebelum itu lagi, memang dalam pelancangan untuk memasukkan UPSR itu dah ada. Dan untuk PBD ataupun pentaksiran berasaskan bilik darjah dan juga pentaksiran berdasarkan sekolah, memang dah ada idea itu lama. Tetapi saya rasa cabaran dalam masa 10 tahun itu, there was always that hesitance. And I think when it comes to huge policies like this, beyond the Ministry of Education, there's always this hesitance. Do we do the right thing, or do we do the right thing, or do we make a decision that people will agree to the most? Talk about the Ministry of Health, the generational endgame policy for no smoking, for example. Is it the right thing to do? Many would argue, yes, absolutely. All the evidence points towards it. Is it something that we are going to do? No, because it's not popular. It's not going to be new votes lah. Putting it that way.
And you lose money.
and in some ways, I think it took a lot of guts from the Ministry of Education when they decided to do this. But in that 10 years, what happened? I was involved with the Ministry of Education very actively at that point. And through that, there were many courses to try to, in some ways, first try to teach teachers how different assessment works, how assessments could be part of your everyday lesson, talking about pentaksiran formatif dan sebagainya, dan kenapa kita perlu menilai individu itu secara holistik dan sebagainya. Itu telah dilakukan. Mereka juga kerap menjalankan inisiatif dengan pemegang taruh pemegang yang lain to explain. So there was a transition plan, but in my opinion, it didn't work. Why? Because I think when you change policies as big as this, policies and societal expectations and culture cannot be separated. They are all intertwined. In Nordic countries, for example, if you want to speak about things like let's say inclusivity, it's a big thing for them, right? It's a huge sin for them to not be inclusive and all that. Something that is expected by society for them to have. They look at the capabilities of a child in a very progressive way. But for us, I think in Malaysia, it's an Asian context. Every parent expects results, expect numbers. And although I do believe that we need to, I'm saying this live for the first time, right? I do believe that we should abolish UPSR, but I'm not so sure if that's the best for us, and whether the teachers, the individu dalam Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia, apa-apa pun sekalipun, are we totally ready for it? It's something I'm not sure. I've not been convinced, and I think this has somehow moved us from our strengths. I'll conclude my point with this. Recently, one of our neighboring countries, Vietnam, made waves, right, with how they have surpassed all expectations in PISA rankings and all of that. And how did they do it? Through examinations. I think we really need to evaluate our strengths. We really need to evaluate our capacity before something like this is done. And looking at what it is, we both were at a session yesterday. It was by an organization called Project ID. And they come up with a survey called the Student Voices Survey, SVS. And I looked at a part where they were talking about assessments. 65%, if I got it correct, if I got it wrong, but in that range, 65%, that means a significant number of students believe or want assessments, exams. So, I don't know. I think there needs to be a lot of effort, and we need to be very transparent about this. I think the huge part that I was not really happy with was that the lack of transparency. What do we actually want for education system? You guys say something about it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm still thinking about it. You gonna go?
I think masa kita abolish, kita cakap, okay, we don't want our education system untuk berasaskan peperiksaan. We want our students to focus on learning as opposed to answering exams, which is on paper something that's very valid, right? Tetapi apabila kita dah shift kepada pentaksiran berasaskan bilik darjah, when you removed it, and then now the people who want UPSR back, apa yang dia orang cakapkan ialah exam tu ialah pendorong, memberikan motivasi kepada murid. Tanpa exam, students are not motivated to go to school. And for me, kalau persepsi saya terhadap isu ni is there no middle ground to this? Right.
Can I add
So,
to that?
I just want to add to that point. I've heard that argument before. I used to be very arrogant at this and very adamant that saying, no, that is really, really wrong, right? Kalau kita nak kata bahawa peperiksaan itu, sepatutnya peperiksaan itu bukan menjadi pendorong untuk someone who wants to excel, tetapi pendidikan itu sendiri, pembelajaran itu sendiri perlu menjadi sesuatu yang memotivasikan, yang mendorong mereka melakukan sesuatu. I don't think it's mutually exclusive lah. It's not one over the other. It could be both. Why shouldn't it be both? Because you can't run away from exams.
Yes.
And then I think I see one teacher explain this quite well. He said, okay, for students to want to excel in school, right, you need to let learning fun. And okay, if you have exam as an extra pendorong untuk memotivasikan murid, that's quite nice. Tapi sekarang sudah tak ada dah. The reality is tak ada dah. What else do you do to make learning fun for them? Dia kena double down dekat sini lah.
And I think it's also pengupayaan guru kami untuk deal with this current system that doesn't rely on exams. When you remove exams and teachers are trained, they experience an exam-based system, adakah guru-guru kami can pivot into this sort of new context where it's not your achievements that matter, but how you view learning, how your process of learning is. And I know KPL telah replace with pentaksiran bilik darjah, you have TP1 to TP6 as a way to measure. But I think, unfortunately, students and or teachers, dia tak nampak value. They don't attribute it as much as they attribute the value towards marks, towards
Tapi
scores.
dari segi kapasiti pun tak masuk akal sebenarnya. Let's be real. Satu kelas 40 orang, macam mana nak buat pentaksiran bilik darjah? Tak masuk akal. Saya pernah tengok, it's horrible. It doesn't make sense. It's not only hard to implement, it is unfairly implemented. If I overlook something that a child is doing, immediately I give you a lower TP based on something that I did not see. How is that fair to a child? And that impacts a lot of things. Because at the end of the day, you say there is no grades, but you still have a TP, which is based on a numerical grading system as well. You are in a particular TP as well. It is.
In some sense, it is worse kerana kurang transparency. Kenapa cikgu tu bagi TP3? Kenapa dia bagi TP4?
Kurang evidence.
And then if I'm a demanding PGB, I was like, no,
Which you will be.
Okay. That's it. But if I am, right? And I'm unethical. We talked about professionalism a bit daripada GBK lah dan sebagainya. Very tough. It's really very tough. And in the most ideal way, I had this experience of visiting this school in India. They are called the Riverside Learning Center. They just won the World Best Schools Innovation category. Fantastic. They do PPD, they do design thinking, they do a lot of teacher professional development. Great. But one of the key reasons to their success is, number one, have a great school environment. Very good community. They work a lot on community involvement in their schools. Great teacher to student ratio. Each class maximum pun 20, lepas tu ada 2 orang setiap kelas tu.
2 orang?
2 orang. Dia satu sekolah tu ada 300 lebih dan hampir 65 staff. Guru dan staff bukan akademik. Sangat. These are the conditions. Tapi dengan itu pun, hari Sabtu kena pergi sekolah untuk PD, hari Sabtu kena pergi sekolah untuk PLC supaya cikgu-cikgu ni yang menilai murid-murid ni boleh datang berbincang mengenai strategi yang sesuai untuk individu berlainan dalam kelas itu dan sebagainya. Mereka ada refleksi mingguan untuk setiap murid. Every child has got a brief summary about what is their progress like. They have another platform where they put in all the data of these students. So it's like qualitative data, quantitative data, PLC and discussions, all taken into consideration before they design something for the following week. I'm not even talking for the next year, the next month. If we want to do PBD, we got to do it really, really well. And we want to do it really, really well, those are the conditions that's required to do it really well. If not, you're in the middle and you're nowhere.
You're not there.
You're, exactly. Exactly. So, but I also think from ministry standpoint, there's a good reason why they can't turn back now. a lot has been invested into this. A lot of money, a lot of time, resources, training, whatever you can mention, everything is being. It doesn't make sense.
Tapi there's a sunk cost argument kan, because if you invested too much, you cannot go back.
Yeah.
But if if down the years you see this you have to.
But you got to mention this also, right? If that's the case, who knows the next minister won't come and bring it back? I mean,
if that happens, I hope the
Berbuih
DG,
je.
I hope the DG can stand still lah. But actually, where do you think we should go from here?
Sebelum tu cakap mengenai DG.
Okay.
Kita lupa. Saya nak mengucapkan bagi pihak kami, kami berpeluang untuk berjumpa dengan bekas DG Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia, Datuk Fakhruddin, yang telah baru-baru ni
Bersara.
Kami daripada The Lesson Plan ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih atas khidmat yang telah diberikan kepada sistem pendidikan di negara kita. And we hope the next DG will carry on his legacy. Or I don't know. I have no idea who the next DG is. But,
We are still waiting.
But again, big shoes to fill. Yeah, big shoes to fill. So what's our conclusion about the UPSR thing? Bring it back or not bring it back?
Yeah, like where do you think KPM patut bawa kita pergi? Apakah hala tuju selepas ni? I don't know lah. Tough lah. Like you said lah, kalau kita nak U-turn sekarang, adakah sudah terlambat?
I don't want to go full on talking. We definitely tak ada masa kalau kita, tapi saya mesti cakap ni lah. It's definitely going to talk about the how are we separating education from politics and all of that, because it's very volatile. Back in the day, we have seen that 5 years is the thing. Now it's not even 5 years. We've got no idea what's going on. It's tough. It's tough. But for whatever direction that the Ministry of Education chooses to be on, they will receive criticism for it. That is for sure. But I really hope that they be more transparent in communicating it. Talking about, don't every report that I read, all positivity. I'm like, be critical about yourselves, be reflective about yourselves, and yeah. But I don't know. I don't know what's the like you. I just don't know what is the exact solution. And I don't want to go on a limb and say that this is it. We need to do this, right? But
there's no silver bullet to this.
There isn't,
right? But whatever transpires, all I hope is that they give the clear message and clear directives to the teachers, because I think at the end of the day, the teachers are the one who navigate apa-apa policy yang kita nak.
What's it like in Singapore? Can you just give us?
I think
Do they have school-based assessments?
Yes, I think Singapore, I mean, by extension, Asian countries in general, if you look at China as well, it is still very much berfokus pada satu peperiksaan. And it's one exam dictates all. You boleh cakap dia orang lagi extreme daripada kita tau. Kalau kita cakap di China, your exam results will determine which university you go, your social status.
Well, what kind of house you can
what
buy,
kind of house you can,
where you can live.
Dia punya impact sangat merangkumi semua aspek kehidupan, bukan sahaja dalam pendidikan sahaja. So I think that's whereas macam Sam cakap tadi kan, if you go to the Nordic countries like Finland, which is obviously the case study that everyone cites, memang dia terbuka and they want to focus on play, not on exams. And then it's the first time we're in your car, it's fine. So I think so I think the global even America itself is trying to find what is the way out of standardized testing, if any. So it's I think no one has found the correct answer yet as well. But one thing's for sure, I'm definitely interested to see how Sarawak deals with this. But I think that's a topic for another day. Alright. So I think untuk hari ini kita telah berbincang banyak isu yang penting. We started with Malaysia Teacher Prize, and then isu Palestin, UPSR, and then the last one is bullying, I think. So I rasa memang dunia pendidikan ni tak kurang isu untuk kita bincangkan. But we will stop it here for now.
Dan jika you guys ada apa-apa topik yang you liked, please let us know, and you want us to talk about, comment as well. Then we will try and bring it back in the next podcast.
Right, guys. Bye.